In the past decade or so, the number of New Yorkers born in Africa has roughly doubled, which of course means more of our fellow residents than ever before have direct connections with Mother Africa. Many of them want to help their friends and families back home, and their beneficiaries include a large number of women and the businesses and nonprofits they run.
Well, a leader among the fundraising organizations is the American branch of the African Women's Development Fund. And at this time of year, when giving is at its height, we're happy to be joined by the chair of the Board of AWDF-USA, Dr. Abena Busia, who, by the way, is also chair of the Department of Women's and Gender Studies at Rutgers University. Thank you for joining us.
I'm very happy to be here.
You're a busy woman.
Oh, well, we try. And I have to say, 35 years at Rutgers has turned me into a Jersey chauvinist.
Oh, so, is it?
Wonderful as great as it is. We're very, very happy about the African community in Brooklyn. But I do have to say also that according
we've got a rival
to
in Jersey.
Yes.
Okay, come on. According to whom? Was it the Census Department?
According to the 2000 census, New Jersey actually has twice the national average of continental-born Africans as a percentage of its foreign-born population.
Okay, 35 years later, we'll give you a pass for that Jersey knowledge that she just dropped on us. So our people who are continental-born from the continent, they continue to show up and give and be generous and think of back home because they know the needs.
Yes, absolutely. And AWDF wants to help them guide the needs, as you can say. If I can just say a little bit about our mother organization, the African Women's Development Fund. It was founded 15 years ago now, I guess it's 16 years now, by 3 African women. And, you know, today is, I guess it's synergy, serendipity, because I have to say, we just lost one of our 3 founders. And the memorial service for her is beginning in Ghana at our headquarters within the hour. Oh, wow. So I feel really blessed that I'm here today talking about this organization. As I said, 3 courageous African women. Joanna Foster, who we've just lost, was the Ghanaian, who was at the time the director of WILDAF, the Women in Law and Development, based in East Africa, in Southern Africa. Dr. Hilda Tadria, who is an international civil servant, and B.C. Adelaide Fayemi, who was at the time the director of Akina Mama Wa Africa in London and became our first executive director. They, all of them, because they worked in women's rights, the fields of women's rights and so on, and with organizations that were always looking for money, they realized there was something wrong with the picture, and that is money was scarce on the ground, and so often, as happens, small organizations start tailoring their desires to meet the needs of the donors because they're desperate for money. And they decided to do something which everybody thought wouldn't work and everybody thought was crazy, and that is 3 independent African women decided that they were going to start a fund for African women's organizations, which would be directed by those organizations. And that when AWDF gives money, it's to give money for what the organization wants to do and not what the donors want to do.
So 16 years later, where's the need? Where do most of the funds go as directed by people who are actually on the ground and know what is needed?
All over the place. In the last 16 years, we've raised enough money to give $24 million to 1,200 women's organizations in 42 countries. And for logistical purposes, we fund in 6 program areas, and those 6 areas are organic. Our 3 founders did a lot of work talking to the women's organizations on the ground to see if you had your money, what would you do with it? And the 6 areas are economic empowerment and security, bodily integrity, health, women's health and bodily integrity, HIV/AIDS, which is a separate fund from health, and I can explain that, peace and security, and what am I missing? The last one is arts and culture, arts, sports and culture, which was added at the 10th anniversary, in fact, for two reasons. One, they realized that sports on the continent was becoming a venue for women's leadership. A lot of young girls and women were cutting their edge on leadership and organization and skills through sports. And they realized also the power of media and images and the need to support those organizations, women's organizations, who work in the transformation of women's images. So that became the sixth funding area that they had. It was the last added. And I said, we started off with just women's health and bodily integrity, but as you can imagine, 15 years ago was the height of the HIV. And we realized that HIV was taking a lot of money, but there were so many other health needs that needed to be taken care of. So the organization decided to start a separate fund for HIV and AIDS. And in fact, our 5th anniversary, we launched that fund. And the only time the Nelson Mandela Foundation has given money to another organization was to AWDF to start the HIV/AIDS campaign, you know, which is really...
So tell us now, Doctor, how the U.S. faction came about.
Yes, well, that's really easy. The U.S. faction came about because AWDF wanted to diversify. I mean, most of our money comes from the big philanthropic organizations and corporations, but we realized, particularly in this country and in England, there are African descent communities in this country, African Americans, as well as smaller family foundations and organizations that are interested in giving to the causes that AWDF supports. However, you know, practical considerations like if you're an individual or a small family organization, you need your tax break. You know, it's a different category of people from the Fords and the Carnegies and so on.
Some of that Oprah money.
Yes, so there you go. So we thought it would help if there was an organization that talked about the work of AWDF and helped raise friends. And if those friends want to give, there's a vehicle, there's a channel through which you wouldn't lose your US-based tax benefits, so that we realize the need for a charity based in this country. We do have 501c3 status.
Awesome.
And so that was the benefit.
So later today, when folks go online and they click on the donate button, you guys are the point of entry. You'll get all your goofy tax deduction stuff.
You go to www.awdfus.org.
All right.
And you will find us.
And speaking of friends and charity, I heard that you guys do something a little bit different for Giving Tuesday. And what was that?
Well, you know, everybody tries to do something different for Giving Tuesday. So we did launch a particular appeal and say, and you know, write saying this is who we are and what we're doing. And our we have a number of people who are interested. Actually, for example, my students at Rutgers are trying to start an AWDF club. So that's not focused simply on Giving Tuesday. They started just before and are working through the 16 days. You know, the 16 days campaign for violence against women, started at Rutgers. You know, it's a project of the Center for Women's Global Leadership, of which I also sit on the board. So my students decided to take advantage of that 16 days and promote the work of AWDF by holding a series of things around Giving Tuesday and the 16 days to help bring attention and raise funds for the organization. Yes.
Well, Godspeed. We got a few more days left in that 16-day challenge.
Yes, we do. Yes. So we are spreading it not just on Giving Tuesday. We highlighted Giving Tuesday.
All right,
but
Rutgers,
we
we're
just-
not mad at New Jersey now. So before we get out here, one more time, just drop the website on us so people can know where to go.
AWDFUS.org, the African Women's Development Fund, US.
Thanks so much,
Right.
Dr.
Right.
Busia.
Thank you so much for the
great to
opportunity.
have you.
Thank you so much
thank
for
you for
joining
your
us.
work.
It's a good looking.